Hello, my name is Christian, and today I'm going to be talking about how we use language to perceive emotion and how language has played its role in the theory of knowledge. From the first time life gained any signs of intelligence, language has played one of the most significant roles throughout its history in correlation to knowledge. We, as intelligent life forms on this planet, use language to express even the simplest forms of intelligence and self-awareness, such as our ability to feel and empathize with even know that something exists. We use a plethora of language forms to express these very emotions and thoughts. From an early age, language is in the use of even the simplest of humans. Infants that are no more than 1 year old learn that when they cry and whine and make little noises and grunt and make gestures, they gain attention. They learn to use this in different methods, in the different combinations of their sounds and gestures, such as maybe a whine and waving their hands to be able to gain some simple tasks such as a diaper change or even some milk when they're hungry. As we start to be able to form words as children, we learn the meanings of some of these words, and you just see a drastic change in how we communicate and how we express ourselves. As a child gets to the age that they can actually carry on a conversation, this is when they can use their language to truly express their emotions and how they're feeling. As a baby, you can tell through their tone, and they express through the emotions in their body and how they were feeling, such as when they would cry and wave their hands, you knew that they were upset. But as a kid, they never needed to really do that anymore, as they can kind of just, they might give out a frown and use some of their body language, but they can just flat out say, I'm not feeling good today. Sometimes I notice also in life that language verbally is a lot more powerful than language or than body language. Because in the real day, there are times when I misread body language completely. One example that I have is when I think that someone's really sad, and I go to try and make them feel better, but in actuality, they just laugh and they're not actually feeling sad at all. They're just thinking about something really intently, and they happen to have a very serious face on. The use of language and to communicate emotion is one of the most powerful things that sets us apart from a lot of other species on this planet. One of the big complications, however, with using verbal language in today's world is the amount of languages that actually exist in today's world. Because of such a large amount of languages that are in this world, different languages collide, and this causes something that is called a language gap. One of the real-life examples that I have of the language gap would be around when I came to Thailand and I moved here and I was trying to communicate with the Thai native speakers. Luckily, I was with a friend when I made this mistake, but even still, it shows the dangers of the language gap and how you could possibly offend somebody in their own language and not even mean it and have the best of intentions. When I was talking with my friend, I meant to say I want to ride my bike, but I messed up with the tone of the language because tone is not very common in my home language, and I messed up and said the S word and then ride my bike. It was quite embarrassing for me, but it was a nice reality check to know that languages vary from every different culture. One of the more common language gaps that I can see myself encountering as I go back to the States is the language gap between the Americans, the Britons, and the Australians. People might say there is no real language gap because we all speak English, but there actually is a very large language gap. There are many things in that language that we generally don't associate with each other. Like when I say chips, for example, in Britain, people in Britain would associate that with French fries, but when I say chips in America, they immediately associate that with the potato crisps that the Britons would identify. The same thing goes in Australia. There are some words in Australia that Britons don't actually have words for, and it's confusing when you go to those countries because you feel like you know what they're saying, but you in actuality have no clue what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that when you go to these countries you'll be completely lost, you won't be able to communicate with them, and you'll have to rely on your physical expression of language. But what I'm saying is to actually be able to communicate it with emotions on a deeper level, it's extremely difficult. Um, One of the biggest problems that I also see with the language gap was when it comes to how different languages spell and how they can write out their language. One of my favorite things to do to non-English speakers is try to have them spell pterodactyl, as the word itself is spelled in a completely confusing way to those who would not know how to spell the word initially. The word you would think is spelled with a T, and then it just goes Terodactyl, pterodactyl. I don't know if I can spell that right. I'm kind of winging this part, but in actuality, the word itself is spelled Pterodactyl. No one would actually understand why it's spelled this way, but unless you do the actual English language, it would be completely difficult for you to actually express this. Another problem that is occurred in the language gap is the fact that different languages express emotion in different ways. When you're passionate for something in America, it could seem like you are angry at something in another language. And this goes for a lot of languages. The problem that we face with this language gap can be solved easily, but it only takes time for you to be able to understand each one's emotions, and you have to be able to read body language and read tone and to understand language. I feel like verbal language is a better way to express your emotions, but being able to understand body language and being able to understand tone allows you to actually communicate with those verbal languages when you don't know that language. Thank you for listening.
Dog.
What did I get it at? Let's go. What did you save yours to?
A desktop.
Yeah, same here.